purchase. All right, number of important things to say here. I think the first important thing to say is, guys, if you've done everything well up until this point, this part should be pretty easy, or at least not too bad. If you have not done things well up until this point, this is where you pay for it, and this is basically where you find out how good a job you did up until this point, right? So, moment of purchase. Let's say it's a house. Right? So this is a little bit what the moment of purchase feels like. It's like you guys are almost there and there's like this chasm, right? It's like there's this chasm, there's this scary part where the customer has to cross over to get here, and they're scared, right? Right here, they're scared. This happens pretty much in every single sale. Now, sometimes the person is just good and they're like, yes, and sometimes there's a shit ton of hesitation and everywhere in between. But they're always gonna feel some level of something right there. And so, like I said, everything up into here, if you did it well, this is less scary. If you didn't do well, it's more scary. Or the answer is just like, absolutely not, definitely not doing it. I gotta think about it. Or they don't say the not, they say I have to think about it, right? So, understanding that this is what this feels like, this is what the customer's feeling, this is always what's gonna happen. One thing I would say for here, let's say with asking for the sale specifically. You have to assume the answer is yes. You have to ask in a way where there's some power in your voice, where your tonality is good, where it's clearly coming, it's like an expectant. Like there's an expectancy to the way that you just ask. It's not like, you don't ask like, like, is this something you might, maybe kind of perhaps want to do? I mean, it seems pretty good, right? Like, you really have to be sure of yourself in this moment, because you have to be sure for you and for them, right? So I think we talked about certainty before. Your certainty has to be really freaking high. Your certainty has to be high. Now, hopefully, as the whole presentation went by, the customer's certainty went up, and now it's somewhere higher, like up here. We don't know how high the customer's certainty needs to be to buy, but we know it's gotta be somewhere higher than the bottom, probably, right? The more certain we are, the more we can bring them up with us. The less certain we are, the less certain they are, the less likely they buy. So assume the answer is yes. I'm gonna put certainty, right? Assume the answer is yes, certainty. Tonality. So when you ask for it, I think my tonality is usually something like, is this something you'd like to do? And there's like this question, right? Is this something you would like to do? And so you sort of have a questioning tonality, like question, tonality. Another very important thing here when you're asking for the sale, try to write really clearly for that one, because this is super important. Stop talking. So this is a very, 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 very common mistake that most all salespeople make. You have to be a little more advanced or experienced to not make this mistake. So what I mean is, most salespeople will be like, so, is this something you'd like to do? Because if it's something you'd like to do, I think it'd be a really good fit, and I think you really like it, and you told me how you really like it, and I could see you being really happy here, and I really think you'd be happy, so would you like to do it? I think it'd be the right fit for you. It's like, ooh, it's like exhausting just hearing that, right? So the salesperson sort of like talks, and this person gets like a little overwhelmed by that, right? It's sort of overwhelming just hearing me do that. right? You have to ask the question and you have to stop. I think a lot of times salespeople are scared of silence, or they think silence means nothing's happening, or they think silence means something bad is happening. But silence does not mean nothing is happening. And silence does not mean something bad is happening. Now, I suppose sometimes it could, but in this situation, it doesn't. So sometimes you can summary close, right? You can be like, we talked about this, right? You could do that, or sometimes maybe you don't, just depending on the feeling of the moment and what you think is best. But you just ask them point blank. I don't think there's a super secret way to ask. Be like, you know, you found everything. Be like, you know, would you like to go with this one? Or is this something you'd like to do? Or like, is this, you get what I'm saying? Like, if it's a house, like, so like, you would like to, so you want to go with this one, right? You're just suggesting, and your tonality is asking, and you know, you have some energy in your voice, you feel good, you feel positive, feel strong about it, and then you stop. So you say, like, is that something you'd like to do? And then sometimes there can be a significant pause there, you know, but they're thinking, and that thinking is important. It's really, really important. So this is the first time you're asking for the sale. Now, sometimes the answer is yes on the first time, and usually that's because you did such a good job with everything before that you took them across this scary part, and now they're here and they're happy, right? But it doesn't always work that way. So ideally, it works that way, but it doesn't always work that way, right? So we're gonna get into objections and talk a little bit about objections next, but this is what this is always gonna feel like. You've gotta assume the answer is yes, have a good tonality, asking the question, stop, let them answer. No matter how long it takes, even if it feels like it's 30 seconds, they have to speak next.